Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Millie's Bayside Chats, where we are live streaming to bring some calm to the chaos of your PCS. Every week we interview duty station experts to give you the dish on PCSing to a place that you may or may not have heard of. So be sure to tune in each and every week because we drop beautiful little nuggets along the way, maybe some PCS hacks or how to pack or how to treat your movers, you name it. We will just talk all the things and see where the conversation leads us. So, I'm Kelly Artis. I'm your host, and I am so glad you're here. All right, everyone. It is so good to be back live streaming with you today. I am in North Carolina, and we have someone on the other side of the planet joining us today. Okay, not really. She's pretty far, but she's not that far. We have one of our friends, Stephanie, joining us from Alaska. So I'll bring her on in just a second so you guys can hear all the goodness that she has to share about a PCS2 Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, which is JBER, colloquially. So anyway, yeah, if you guys have any questions, be sure to throw them in the comments. If you're catching this on replay, welcome. Please let us know that so we can circle back and say hi to you later on after the live stream. So, okay. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce you guys to Stephanie O'Sullivan. Hey, Stephanie.
Hi.
Hey. And we have the puppies too. So you guys bear with us because her sweet little pups are blind, or puppy is blind, and he hears my voice and he thinks that I'm a stranger in the house. So this may happen and not a big deal. So thanks for joining us today, Stephanie. We are really glad you're here, and I would love for you to take a second and introduce yourself to the folks in the group.
Hey, well, my name is Stephanie. We moved to Alaska about a year ago. This is our 7th duty station. I met my husband, and we were married 10 years ago, and he's been in the military for 13 years. And so we started out at Fort Hood in Texas. That's where we met. And then we went to the career course at Fort Leonard Wood. He's an engineer. So that's where we headed. And then after that, we did go to Fort Bragg, North Carolina for a few years. Yeah, we loved it there.
Right.
And after it was best friends were made there. It was amazing. And we want to go back someday. After Fort Bragg, he did a job at Fort Knox. And then we went from Fort Knox to DC, and then DC to Leavenworth for ILE. And then after ILE, we moved to JBER.
Goodness.
So it's been quite a journey.
That seems like a lot in so many years. That's crazy. And a few big ones in there too. Well, kudos to you. So I'm sure you have some, definitely has some wisdom to share. Mistakes made along the way, maybe.
Yes, I have those.
Who doesn't, right? Oh man. Okay, cool. So I was telling Stephanie earlier, like I have zero knowledge. I mean, I know what I've read and what I've written about Alaska, but I have no firsthand knowledge. I've never been that far north or west ever. So this will be fun for me. So I'm going to pretend like I'm moving, and I'm going to ask you all the questions that I would want to know before we go. And we'll see if we can help people out. And you guys, again, I'll say it. If you have questions along the way, please throw them in. This is your opportunity to ask somebody that's on the ground and they can help you out, especially if you're stressing going. I mean, some people get really excited to go. I know most people have a great experience, but it may take a minute to get there. So we want to try to help you get there quicker. So tell us kind of right off the bat, like what are some of the options you have for where to live in Alaska?
Well, they make it a little bit different than normal PCSs because this is a joint base. They run things differently for the on-post housing. So you do get temporary lodging for 60 days once you get here, which is use all of it and kind of figure out what you want for your family. We personally chose to live on post because of the commute being only a couple minutes down the road, because of the weather. We're not comfortable with dealing with the snow, so closest point A to point B, no snow, that would be good for us. So we chose on post for that reason. There are also Anchorage is right outside the gate. Unfortunately, right outside the gate in that part of Anchorage, it's not the safest. So they kind of try to push you living in South Anchorage, or so that's another place to look. The other problem with Anchorage is the cost of living is high. So rent is usually above or at the very top of your BAH, which is not always doable for a lot of families. So that's another reason on post was a great option for us. For the house you get for the BAH, it's worth it. Off post, we did look for a bunch of rentals, and you weren't getting what you wanted for our money, so we chose on post. The problem with on post is that the housing wait lists can be long, depending on, the rank. It can be you come in and they actually say we don't really know. They don't run it quite as efficiently as I've seen other places run it. So you could very well be looking off post, or having a very long wait. So the other places to live would be Eagle River, which I would, if we didn't live on post, I would live out in Eagle River. There's some great neighborhoods in Eagle River, and it's kind of in between Anchorage and the valley is what they call Palmer and Wasilla. So you kind of get a good vibe of either the city, if you want to go into Anchorage, or more of like a rural vibe out in Wasilla, Palmer, which you would think all of Alaska is rural, but there is a city and it is very city-like. So those are the main places people live. The Palmer and Wasilla drive-in is a bit longer. It's about 45 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that looks pretty far.
One way.
How is that roadway, like that highway? Is that something to consider?
It is. It's the only way in. So we've had bad accidents that have shut down the entire road, and people have waited 4 hours to get home. There aren't really any back roads in Alaska. They try to just cut main roads, and so those are the main roads. When we had the earthquake, bridges collapsed, so we had people stranded, and they weren't able to get home, and roads collapsed out in Palmer and Wasilla. So that was another thing. I didn't think about the earthquake when we moved here, but I thought about more of like the weather and traffic getting shut down for that.
Right.
So I didn't want to have to be stranded. So that's another reason we chose on post. And some people choose South Anchorage because that road that's never shut down since we've been here. They've had pretty good flow. Yeah. So
that's pretty, like a straight shoot in.
Yeah. So those are the main things. The weather and the highway gets a little crazy when it's really bad outside.
I can imagine that being, unless you're, especially like you've said before, unless you're comfortable, where'd we go? Unless you're comfortable dealing with weather and driving in weather, that could be a problem. There we are. Sorry. You guys got to see my desktop for a second. Yeah. So while we're talking about weather, let's talk about it. So what does someone say from South Carolina that's never seen more than like an inch of snow in her life? What would that person need to expect?
Oh, well, I feel you because I was from Texas. I am from Texas, and this is like, that's why I didn't want to come here. Is I was like, how am I going to survive this? But really, it's the past few winters, so I'm told from the locals, haven't been that bad.
Okay.
We've had a couple of days where it's been like an 8-inch drop or a foot of snow down in one time, but most of the time it'll snow a little bit and stop. And they're very good here at clearing the roads. If you just give them a minute to do that, and they get up at all hours of the day to clear those roads. So as long as you're giving them some time, it should be fine if you give them a chance. We also did invest in snow tires because I am not a snow driver. We did also have to purchase a different vehicle because we knew that we could be dealing with some pretty deep snow, or we thought we would. We didn't really have to. It wasn't really necessary to get that car. We know now. Too late now. But we did invest in the snow tires because of the ice and the snow that do build up over the entire winter. Our driveway and our roadway was an ice rink at one point. Like you could literally, people were skating down the road on ice skates.
Oh my God.
So ice was a huge thing that I wasn't prepared for, and no one can drive on ice. Like no matter how many years you've spent, no one can drive on ice. So everyone's pretty understanding of people who don't know what they're doing around here. So that's another good thing about it is they understand that no one can handle this weather. And we're all patient with each other.
Yeah. So what are, I'm just thinking like, okay, so I've been in snowstorms before, not in South Carolina, but elsewhere where it kind of disrupted aspects of my life that I didn't even consider. Like the grocery store started running really low on certain food items because, like French toast supplies and other things, because they weren't able to get the resupply in because the roads elsewhere were messed up, all that kind of stuff. Do you guys see things like that happening, or do you feel like it's well managed in that way as well?
Yeah, no, they're well managed. The only time we saw that happen was after the earthquake. But before that, and during the whole winter, everything is consistently stocked. The vegetables and produce are always fresh. They're getting it from somewhere, not here.
Not here.
But it's always, we haven't had any issues with getting any, and there's a ton of grocery stores here. The commissary is one option, but there are tons of options here. And I did find out what Instacart and ClickList were with our local grocery store. So I didn't have to take my kid and put him in his clothes and walk him through the parking lot. I just went and drove up. They loaded my groceries, and I came back home. So that's something I do use now here in the winter.
Oh my gosh,
because it's just so much easier.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some, I know we talked a minute ago about offline about just some of the interesting considerations that we have to make living in Alaska. It's almost like going overseas, right? So everything from the way that you move and the way that they process your move and everything, the amount of time they give you to get there, all that good stuff. But then also you brought up a good point. So talk to me about having, let's say you have an Etsy store and you want to continue selling, or you have some sort of like side hustle that you're doing. What has been your experience with that?
Well, the good part is the installation is very understanding of home businesses. So they're pretty cool with you running your business out of your house. That's not an issue. The problem is the supply. If you're somebody that needs to get supplies from the lower 48, which is what they call the lower 48 down there, it's expensive. Sometimes they have a minimum that you have to buy in order for them to ship up to you. So like, let's say a minimum's $80. Well, I didn't need $80 of supplies. I only needed $12, and now I'm spending way more than I needed to. Shipping, getting it in a timely manner. I am a huge Amazon Prime fan. They still ship up here, but it's not a 2-day. It's like a 9-day thing.
I mean, the sacrifices we make, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have the 2-hour or the drone delivery? Like, come on.
No. We had that in the Alexandria, but we did not keep that when we moved up here. So yeah, it's something I'm having to still get used to after a year. But I know, like, if I'm gonna need this, I need to order it now when I'm thinking, a couple of weeks out. So yeah, getting the supplies, getting it shipped. Some people don't ship up here at all. A lot of people don't ship up here at all, and so there are like little side store businesses here that will somehow get you things that can't ship up here. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. Like, yeah, something like that. So there's always a way to get it up here, but it's going to cost you a lot of money and it's going to take a lot of time. So that's one consideration. If you're wanting to move up here, furniture is hard to get. So come up here with your furniture, come up here with any decor. We don't have a Hobby Lobby, or we do have the Michaels, but we don't have any of the cool, like, home stores, Home Goods, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, none of that. So get your stuff, and a lot of people do. I see on the Facebook pages, they stock up once they find out we don't have that stuff, and they bring that stuff with them for their homes up here. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like there's just so much planning, like forward thinking, like let go of your comforts that you have. Not like it's austere by any means, but there are some things that you're going to have to adjust to just because of logistics. It's just a matter of, can a truck drive up there or not? Or is the company willing to spend the extra money to get it to you? So, oh man.
Right,
okay, well, so tell me, what are some of your favorite things? Like, what are you enjoying the most about living up there?
Well, I will tell you honestly that I did not want to come here. And so I had an attitude of like, I'm just going to get through this, and we'll be done. But I've actually enjoyed coming up here. There's so many things to do. I'm not an outdoors person, or I wasn't. We are now. We go fishing. Fishing is actually a lot of fun for my son and my husband. We weren't fishermen at all, but now we love fishing. There's always a chance to see wildlife up here on post. Bears walk around, moose walk around, fox, it's crazy, but it's also like living in a zoo. the views are amazing all the time. You see mountains no matter where you're looking. And the weather is amazing. It's never hot, which is one thing I don't miss about Texas, is that it's scalding hot in the summer. Here it gets up to 70. So we love being outside. I know. I know. And it's daylight here till 11 right now, 11 at night.
Okay, so tell me, is that
really fun.
But how do you feel about that? Like, is that hard to get used to? Do you get used to it? Yeah, how do you just adjust to that?
We had to, it's harder for our son because he doesn't understand. The sun goes down usually, and that means bedtime.
Right.
But now the sun doesn't go down till like 11.
Right.
So we invested in a lot of blackout curtains, which is what everyone pretty much invests in. And you have to get the good ones. They have the good ones up here.
Cool.
And we have them all over the house. So the sunlight's actually fun. The winter was a little bit harder to get used to because it gets dark at like 3:30 or 4, which makes you not want to go outside. It makes you not want to take your kids to extracurricular activities because you're like, it's dark. I don't want to go back outside today.
It's just your body. So, your body's like, okay, cool. You know, like, I don't want to go anywhere. Oh, that would be hard. Yeah. That would be really
hard. You have to force yourself. And that's when, like, having your kid in activities is actually good because it's making you leave the house. It's making you go socialize.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did bring some happy lights, those sun lamp things. We did buy some of those before we came up here because we knew that was something we would need. So we turn them on in the morning when you're waking up because the sun rises later too. Right. So it's like 9 to 3 you have sun.
Wow.
And then, so it was a little harder to get up and moving, but with those lamps and stuff, it really did help out.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. All right, cool. So what, is there something that you wish you had known before you'd gotten there that could have helped alleviate some stress?
Sorry.
You're good.
I think that just embracing it's not isolation, but like we're all in this together right now. You know, like we're all up here where the time difference is so off. It feels like we're isolated from our families because it's so expensive to fly back home. So I think we all just kind of form a tighter knit community up here because we are all we have, it feels like.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So I think that understanding that you're going to have to reach out to your neighbors, you're going to have to make new friends, and you know, you're going to kind of have to get out of your comfort zone. But it's not, it hasn't been bad. I just think that that's something, it was a lot easier to make friends at other installations that were also just Army. We're having to get used to the Army Air Force thing and how they run differently. So that's another thing that I needed to have more of an open mind on because I'm used to how the Army does things and the Air Force is in charge of this base. So it's kind of just having to get your mind around how they do things.
That's so funny. I know that's what everyone says at joint bases. They're like, it's really strange. And then sometimes you're in the minority and like you're like the odd duck in blue or green or whatever, you know, color.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. And you have so many different experiences coming from Army installations, just from like geographically where they're located versus where Air Force cats are, you know, located, you know, so I think that's fascinating. And I have overwhelmingly heard the same thing, especially in locations like this where you are so far removed from things that you know and that are comfortable. It is so the connections are just so strong because you almost have to rely on people. So please get out. If you're headed there and you're hearing anything that we're saying, like, do your best, get out of the house, get your little lamps that make you get up and go sign up for things that are after hours or not even after hours, like after daylight hours or whatever. Like, get out and try to meet people. If you don't have the opportunity of sitting on your front porch and meeting people as they walk down the street, right? Like it's a totally different sort of like system that you kind of get into. So you're going to have to be intentional about it, but it's worth it once you just plug in, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Awesome. So do you have any hidden gems? Like, what are some of your favorite places that you want to pass along to somebody so they don't have to wait 6 months into their tour to discover?
Yeah. Let's see. There's a couple of really awesome coffee shops in Eagle River. One's Jitters, and it's our favorite. It's like a little cafe. It has yummy food, sandwiches, quiches, and delicious coffee. Alaska does not lack in coffee stands. Everywhere you look, there's a coffee stand.
I've seen them drive through, right? Aren't they little drive through nuts? Yeah.
everywhere. So, but that one has a hut in the parking lot, but also go inside, and we like to go inside and sit there. So that's one
Yeah.
of our favorite places. The other one is the zoo. They have a small, it's a very small zoo. It's nothing like we've ever seen before. Mom? And hold on a second. And they have a bunch of animals that were like rescued, like, and they're all native to Alaska. Yeah, so they're not. We don't have lions and monkeys. We have, polar bears and brown bears and just different animals native to Alaska. So that was one of the first places we went, and it's a good place to go to walk the energy off. In the winter, we went. It's a good place to go just to like show your family, like, hey, if you're not going to see a moose or a bear up close in my front yard, we can at least see one at the zoo.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
We bought the annual pass, and we go often because that's just a safe, good place to walk energy off. And otherwise, I think that there's just a lot of really interesting experiences. There's the dog mushing, dog sled riding that even Post offers in the winter. There's ice fishing.
Wait. How do they offer it? Like you can just go and ride on a sled with dogs and everything that they have?
Yeah,
That's cool.
We have a whole ski resort on Post.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
So
awesome.
You can go skiing, snowboarding. We have our own hill and lessons and place to go. And then they also do dog sledding. And so you can go sign up and get driven around in a dog sled. So, and it's not expensive. It's expensive for tourists in tourist season, but for the military, it's not expensive on Post to do any of the activities that they offer. And they offer a lot here because they know that the winter can be long and you've got to find your own fun. So those are the things that they offer up is the ice fishing, dog sledding, skiing, snowboarding, ice skating. We have an ice skating rink outside. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like your driveway would also suffice.
Yeah, that counts too.
Oh, that's so great. Okay, well, awesome. Do you have any like parting words? Like, okay, so someone is stressing because they're headed to JBER and they're like maybe in the position that you were in before you got there. What would you tell yourself before you arrived to kind of calm down?
That, the experience, it's a once in a lifetime experience, and normally no one can say they've lived in Alaska. That's a place that people want to vacation, that want to visit. It's definitely a bucket list place, but we're fortunate enough that the military pays us to live here, and we get to experience all of the things that people come to Alaska for, but we live here. So that's kind of the mentality I would go in with, instead of like, why did I get sent to Alaska? It's more like, this is a privilege. It's a vacation spot. And how lucky am I that I get to do it for it's just a few years. It's not forever. Unless you want to make it forever. A lot of people do end up falling in love with Alaska, and they end up staying here.
Well, that's awesome. I hope you and Little Man are enjoying your tour there. I can't wait to hear what's next for you. And be here when you need us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for talking with me.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Little Man, for letting us borrow your mommy. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, see you later. All right, you guys. Well, that is it. I loved hearing all about Alaska. I don't know about y'all. I haven't been there. If you've been there and you have something to add, please add it in the conversation below. We would love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. If you're headed to Alaska, let us know that too, so we can help you out with some resources. We'll keep Stephanie tagged in the thread so she can, help answer any questions that may come up. And as always, we're here if you need us. So I dropped the link to the base guide that we have for JBER. There's tons of photos. There's really great maps and commute charts and all kinds of good stuff to kind of get you oriented around some of the different areas. And again, if you're thinking of maybe settling there, apparently people do, let us know and we can hook you up with one of our agent heroes who would be more than happy to help you find a home for now or a forever home up in Anchorage, Alaska. All right, you guys, until next time, it has been really fun. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.